I made a video a couple days ago talking about Samson the Masher from the Skinwalker faction, and in that video I said that Ragash wasn't a very good damage dealer, and that upset a fair few people. So I figured, since I also have Ragash on my account, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of a showcase of this particular champion, and it's going to be the continuation of how the late game player builds series. So I went ahead and I moved over my gear from my Harima, who is the best defensive nuker on my account in my opinion. She has the most utility and I definitely use her the most. I went ahead and just straight up moved that gear over to my Ragash. Keep in mind his defense is a little bit lower than it could be if you had him built out for just straight up nuking. I did still try to build him with enough accuracy to suffice where I'm going to be testing him, so in Dragon for example, because he does bring some usefulness to his kit. A1 attacks one enemy 2 times, places a increased defense on this champion for 2 turns. Damage based on defense, of course, this guy is fantastic. He is a self buffer. I just said he's fantastic. The reason that he's fantastic is because he can self buff. So we are going to be pairing him up with somebody here today to bring that increased defense buff. But if you don't have somebody who can do that, if you don't have the CPs of the world and those sorts of things, this guy can open with his A1, place the increased defense on himself. It is quite nice. A2 attacks all enemies, 100% chance of placing a decreased defense debuff on each enemy for 2 turns before attacking, which is fantastic. Also has a 75% chance, books to 100, of placing a stun for 1 turn after attacking. So this guy's going to go ahead and debuff ahead of doing damage, so he's bringing a buff for himself as well as a debuff for the enemy team, which is pretty fantastic. And then he is also stunning them with a 100% chance on a 3-turn cooldown. You can probably figure it out already, but this is kind of his big money ability that everybody likes. His A3 places a strengthen and an increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also places a perfect veil on this champion for 2 turns. So basically he's helping everybody go faster, he's helping everybody survive a little bit longer, and he's also shielding himself from all the other sort of nasty stuff like single target nukes from Rotos and those sorts of things. So especially if you have him in something like a 1-turn stone skin, this is a very useful skill to basically guarantee that he gets himself a turn, which is quite nice. Passive. At the start of each turn, places a perfect veil buff for 1 turn on the ally with the highest attack, which is quite nice. He's also going to help to hide whoever your nuker is. Again, if you're using him in the arena and you're going against a Rotos or a Georgid or something like that, somebody who is heavily reliant on single target, or a Siegfried, this guy is going to help out a lot. Inflicts 20% more damage against targets whose defense is lower than this champion's defense. So any sort of speed boosters, support champions like a Phryxia or something like that, as well as of course nukers on the enemy team that are doing attack based damage, are going to be taking increased damage from this champion. And he has an aura which works quite nicely, which is increasing ally defense in all battles by 30%, which is a very significant aura as well. I definitely want to clarify that in that video I did definitely misspeak. This guy is not a bad champion by any means. I just can't really seem to get a ton of damage out of him on my particular account without a lot of setup champions. Then again, I am a little bit spoiled. I do have Taurus on my account, so comparing, and Harima, obviously, right? So comparing those two is kind of like apples and oranges at the end of the day. So I want to showcase this champion and really talk to you about how decent he actually is and how good he is for a lot of players. Let's go ahead. Let's go and test him inside Dragon here. So he is a spirit-based champion, which means that we cannot really want to test him on stage 20. So let's go ahead, let's go into stage 21, should work quite well. He'll be strong hitting, which should be perfectly fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring in Arbiter basically just for some speed lead. We're also going to bring in Ragash with his lead for the defense in all battles increase. We're also going to pair him with Tatura. Tatura is quite a nice champion because Tatura is going to have an AoE increased defense. Sorry, it's not on that skill, it's on this particular skill. So he places the block debuffs and increased defense for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. And he can also do some hiding and everything like that too, so he can definitely help you out there with surviving. We're then also going to bring in the classic Lydia here. I do hope she is fast enough. My Ragash is actually running quite fast. 263, I think she might be too slow in all honesty. Let's go ahead and take a look here. We don't need her yet. She's going to be just fast enough. We don't technically need her though because he is bringing his own decreased defense of course. But let's go ahead. Let's see what Ragash can do with some good setup champions here. He's not really going to benefit from the buffs that are placed on him of course, but he is still going to benefit from well, the increased defense will benefit him. That is about it. So now Lydia's going to come in with a decreased defense and we can... Let's go ahead and slow this down. Let's go ahead and open up with the A2 and let's see what kind of damage he can do. Boom, single target hit. We're getting about 112,000 out of him there. He did definitely do some fire damage as well. Let's go ahead and run that again here real quick. I didn't see what he did to the champions where he absolutely demolished them there. I'll show you the masteries and everything like that momentarily as well. Don't fret. So there we go. Boom. Let's go ahead and bring him in with the A2 once again. And he gets around 184k on some of the champions there. It is going to be a little bit dependent on if Helm Smasher procced, I believe, as well. I do think I have him built out with Helm Smasher. So obviously if that doesn't proc, he's going to do significantly less damage on that particular nuke. And then let's go ahead and let's run him in with the A1 as well and see what he can do on his A1. Boom. Here we go. Let's go ahead and hit any of these champions. So this one right here will do. Double hitter doing about 55 at the lower end and about 70 at the higher end per hit. So about 140 on the A1, which isn't bad. Let's go ahead and talk about how he is built here. So let's go back to our champion. Let's go to the overall stats. We have him built out with 50,000 HP, 5,600 defense, 229 on the crit damage, of course, 100% crit rate, and 257 on the speed. He also has 277 accuracy. I do think I might have some Dragon's bonuses, so this is how it's looking after those bonuses are factored in, really just affecting his resistances and his accuracy, as well as 2% ignore defense there, which is pretty important. In terms of a blessing, I do have him built out in cruelty, so he is essentially just decreasing their defense. If you have him 6-star awakened, you can run this guy in pretty much anything. Some notable ones though will be crushing rend, of course. If you have him attacking when under a lot of buffs, you can also run him in something like I'm trying to find it here at the moment. Give me 1 second. Heaven Cast would also be good if you have him attacking well under buffs. If you have him basically placing increased defenses on himself as well, Faultless Defense could be good, especially somewhere like Fire Knight, where he can help to reflect some of that damage, which would be quite nice. The new Harmony blessings aren't going to be incredibly useful for him. You could argue that you could use something like Nature's Wrath if you're using this guy, not Nature's Wrath, sorry, Neutralize if you're using this guy in the Hydra, but realistically he's just placing a decreased defense, which is not going to be a struggle to keep up in most cases anyways. This guy is definitely centered towards PvP or just nuking down champions if you need that somewhere like City of Centranos or something along those lines. Let's go ahead and take a look at the masteries. I do actually have him built out with counterattack masteries for obvious reasons. We want him to try and counterattack and put up the increased defense on his A1. I'm going to move my head here one way or the other. You can see that we come down to Helm Smasher there. So this is going to have the 50% chance of ignoring 25% of the target's defense, which is quite nice. Just regular nuke masteries here, nothing too crazy about that. And he is fully booked, of course, except for one book missing in the A1, but that's not really going to make it or break it. The ratings on this guy are fantastic. I'll go ahead and throw my infographic up on screen here now. You can check out and see where this guy's useful. He is useful ultimately pretty much everywhere inside the game, because anywhere that you need a nuker, this guy's going to do it fairly well, in all honesty. And he is, of course, a defense-based nuker, which means the more you build him for survivability, the more damage he's actually going to do, because defense helps you survive, and in his case, defense also does damage. Let's go ahead and let's put this guy into the arena and see what he can do here. So I think we're going to go ahead and try to run him against some speed teams, and we're going to try and see if I can outspeed them essentially with my Arbiter, who's rocking at about 367 speed or something like that these days. What we're going to do is we're going to throw in Ragash and Tatura, and then with these two we're probably going to bring something like a Crixia just so that we can increase their cooldowns and hopefully you know, get some nasty things going. And keep in mind, this guy is, of course, going to bring his own debuffs as well, so we don't need to bring in a Lydia or an Eostrid or any sort of a champion like that. Let's go ahead, let's come in here with the A2 and see what he's capable of doing. Boom! We almost take down the Mithrala, which would have been nice there. We don't take down the Wukong, but in fairness, that was because it was a reaction proc, so that's not necessarily his fault. We're going to go ahead and do this with Tatura, so now he's the only one that can be targeted, which is quite nice. So everybody else has the Veil on them there, of course. So that means that anything they might be bringing in is just going to be useless, essentially. We're going to go ahead and try to smack into the Wukong here and see if we can't take him out. We don't. We only do 6,800. That wasn't a critical hit, so I'm interested if he's not built with 100% crit rate. He should be. I'm not sure why that wasn't a critical. Is there some sort of like a blessing or something like that? Not on him. Interesting. Okay. We're going to get the buffs up there. He does have an increased defense still, so we're just going to do this again, make sure everybody else is hidden. He does get feared, which is unfortunate. He does get that counterattack in there, which is quite nice, though. We'll go ahead and we'll place the block debuffs and increase resistance on us as well. Let's go ahead and AoE once again. We take down everybody except the UDK. So we're just going to go ahead and throw it on auto here and wait for this team to finish their business. Sun Wukong comes back, but I'm not too incredibly scared about him at this point because he should be locked out due to the Crixia, so he's just going to be able to A1. At the moment, he can either target Arbiter, Crixia, or Tatura, but Tatura is the one that's targeted. Tatura is quite nice as well, not only because he was a fusion back in the day, so everybody should have him, but he's also a very nice champion because he has a decreased accuracy on the A1. He also has a freeze and some reflect damage in his kit as well, so if you're trying to survive in the arena, he's a very cool, kind of niche, non-meta champion to bring in, which is quite nice. So we are now up in Platinum. I don't know how effectively we're going to be able to beat some of these teams. This is quite a scary team here, in all honesty. He does, of course, excel against the single target nukers, like I mentioned, just since he can cover himself. This team has almost 1 million power, though, with 4 champions, so I don't think we're going to beat them. Yeah, no, the Armands is just straight up faster than us. That is absolutely ridiculous, by the way. 4 champions having almost 1 million power. This guy spends a little bit of money, especially considering he has a +3 Mikage, +1 Crixia, +2 Armands. That is a ridiculous team, ladies and gentlemen. The things you see in Platinum Raid Shadow Legends, it is crazy. Let's see if we can beat this team. I think we should be able to, as long as we're faster. If we're faster, this is going to be in the bag. If we're not faster, we're probably cooked. But I noticed that I can get my Arbiter a tiny little bit faster too, so it looks like I can get her all the way up to about 275, which would be okay. But I still don't think that's really fast enough for doing a lot of things that we need to in today's meta. We take out everybody there, including the Harima, which is quite nice. So we just have Elva left, of course. I think we'll go ahead and we will reset our skills here as well, just so that we can bring in that AoE once again. We'll get the increased defense up. I don't know where it went off him. He only took 1 turn. There we go. He's down once again. He is going to get revived again, though, but that's okay. It is a bit annoying, though, because we do have to target him, just since Elva is under a veil. So let's see if we can't do this. We just have the A1 available on him as well. We'll just go ahead and do this. Get everybody going a little bit faster here. Boom, boom. Crixia takes down. I don't think he's going to get around to a turn, though, before... Yeah, no, because Wukong's going to revive after this, I think. So let's go ahead and do this. Counterattack coming in there. She's just stacking herself up with continuous heals. That's wild. And the revive does come in there as well, unfortunately. However, we do have now the strip and increased cooldowns, which will be nice. So we do get the increased cooldowns away. Boom. Just the Elva left. Let's go ahead and try to boost up a little bit here. Could probably throw it on auto, but gonna do that. Let's go ahead and block buffs. Decreased resistance will be quite nice. Boom. We're gonna go in and take her out, hopefully. Ah, she's like 10 HP. She does get frozen there. So that's the freeze coming in from Tatura that I was talking about, where he has a chance to basically just randomly throw back some damage as well as a freeze, which is quite nice. Probably gonna do a showcase on Tatura at some point. He can actually do sneaky decent damage as well, and very similar to a Ragash, he is actually a damage based on defense champion too, so you can use him in a lot of areas where you're just trying to survive and get through it. I know City of Centranos these days, with the ridiculous stat requirements and stuff like that, inside some of those secret rooms it can be very hard to clear them with an attack based nuker, so having a champion that does damage based on defense can just be life or death in some situations. We have 3 stars on the intimidating presence here, so I think we'll go ahead and we'll switch it out for Eostrid just because she has a stronger aura. We are, of course, fighting in Platinum, but we do get outsped. This isn't good. Yeah, this really isn't good. Let's see. We might be able to cut in. We do. Let's go ahead and sleep the Arbiter. We don't. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this. I just don't want the Candy to take a turn, because if Candy takes a turn, we are probably dead here, unfortunately. We don't get the kill coming in from Armand too either, which is a bit unfortunate. We're going to go ahead and do this and basically cleanse and reset everybody's skills, so we're just countering the Warlord. But again, that Candy, he's just going to come in and spank us, unfortunately. Let's see, is there another team that we could go against here? Definitely want to try for those speed teams. This is an interesting team. Nobody's fully ascended. What a wild strategy. This team is ridiculous as well, by the way. Like I say, the amazing things that you see in Platinum Raid Shadow Legends, this is the team that we just faced. I wonder, so... we can't really beat him with speed because, well, maybe we could. Let's try this. Let's try and bring in our Arbiter, just since she is a little bit faster, right? So we might have the speed we need. We might be able to cut in a little bit more effectively at least. We will have to drop the Tatura, though, so let's see. Oh, that's not good. Okay, let's see if we can get an Evil Eye proc here. We don't. That's unfortunate, and everybody gets stripped. That is also unfortunate. Let's go ahead and hit in here this time, though. Decreasing the defense there, which is nice, but yeah, still... We're just not fast enough. I can't go against that speedy of a speed team. We got some Quintuses coming in, which is kind of cool. Let's go ahead. Let's try against a team like this here. Let's drop out the Eostrid, and once again, we're going to bring in our Tatura. Of course, Ragash is going to be very, very good for somewhere like Faction Wars, considering, you know, that a lot of the Skinwalkers aren't very tanky, and additionally, there's not too much in terms of like revivers or anything like that in the faction. We also just get cooked there, which was not fun. So he is going to be very good there at helping you to survive. I'm going to try an interesting team here, so let's do something a little bit different. Let's bring ourselves in something like, bear with me here, we're going to bring in a UDK, because UDK is going to help absorb the single target nuke coming in from Mashaled and the A2 from Trunda. Then we're also going to try and bring in, let's do this, we're also going to bring in, where is he? Come on, I need to find a champion. I'm looking for Inquisitor Shamael. There we go. Doesn't really matter how fast he is or if he's built or whatnot. And then what we're also going to try and bring in is a Mr. Seeker. I'm just going to use this feature. I never use this feature to find champions, but we're going to do that. So Seeker basically has this passive that whenever he's hit with a critical hit, it places an increased defense on everybody. So we'll see if this works. I definitely want to try and beat this team. Plus, there's an arena tournament going on right now, so getting extra points never hurt anybody. When Mashaled comes in and places all those true fears, though, it should definitely help to increase the turn meter of our Ragash. There it is, so that turn meter is going to get boosted. He's got the increased defense on himself, which means he is technically even now, which is quite nice. And Trunda opens with the A2, which is something I've noticed that she does against UDK teams for some reason. There we go. Everybody's taken out or stunned. That is awesome. We're going to have Shamael coming in, and then we're going to finish it off, actually, with the UDK. That's how you beat a speed team in 2024, ladies and gentlemen, with 3 free-to-play, 100% free-to-play friendly teams. They're champions, right? They're all epics. And then you have Ragash if you're lucky enough to pull him. You can use that same exact strategy even if you're not using Ragash. And obviously, you know, there's going to be somebody in the comments saying,
If that team wasn't platinum viable, I actually will beat that team myself with my amazing champions.
That's great. That is cool. But I showed you something more important, and that's the critical thinking that does sometimes go into the aspects of the PvP in this game, so thinking outside the box can definitely help. That being said, thank you guys all so much for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.